Hey everyone, this is FIDE Master Kavutskiy here once again for Chess.com, and today I'll be showing you more highlights from the 2013 London Chess Classic. As you all know, this was a rapid event featuring 16 of the world's best players, and I handpicked a bunch of games and excerpts to show you guys that I thought were the most interesting or exciting or just simply instructive. This week I wanted to start off with another short combination that basically won the game. If you guys want to pause your video and try to solve it, it is black to play and win. And this position comes from actually the quarterfinals, where two of the favorites faced off. Vishy Anand was playing white against Vladimir Kramnik, and they drew the first game of their match. And in this game, Kramnik found a really nice way to finish off the game and advance to the semifinals. And now if you want more time to try and find the solution, then go ahead and pause the video and take as much as you want. It is a few moves deep, so it should take you a few minutes at least to find the solution. But otherwise, we'll move on. So black here definitely has a small advantage. Their knight is quite active and they've already developed both rooks to the center, whereas white is still lagging a bit. And here, Kramnik was able to take advantage of this and basically won the game on the spot. So he started with the move bishop e4, hitting white's queen. Unfortunately for white, they don't actually have a good way to meet this move. The problem with bishop d3 is that after black takes this bishop, white has to recapture with the rook because the bishop on b2 needs to be protected by the queen. And now black has a simple combination to win the game. Knight takes b2, queen takes b2, and of course now this rook is hanging, so we immediately look for bishop takes h2 check, winning the exchange and pretty much getting a winning material advantage. So after bishop e4, unfortunately for white, they had to play the move queen a1. And now comes knight takes b2, queen takes b2. The key move that wins here for black is definitely hard to see from afar, but once you get to this position, you might find it. Now rook c2 looks very obvious and natural, just with a double attack against white's pieces, but after queen takes b5, white is actually doing okay. The queen defends the bishop, and for the moment black looks better, but only a very small edge, if anything, here for black. Instead, the right move is to prevent white from being able to play queen takes b5, and that's the move b4. Really strong move. Of course, black is threatening to take on a3, and this pawn will be extremely strong. And now after white captures the pawn, rook c2 pretty much wins the game, because white no longer has this queen b5 idea to defend the bishop. So Vishy tried to survive a few more moves. He played queen b3, rook takes e2, and knight d4. Hoping for some tricks, he's attacking the rook and he's threatening the e6 pawn, but Kramnik definitely had enough time here to figure out the best way to win the game, and the game did not last much longer. He played bishop d5, hitting the queen, queen d3, and now black can move the rook to either of these squares and have a winning material advantage. They are up an extra bishop, but here Kramnik simply played queen h4, just ending the game immediately, and Vishy had to resign. The problem is that queen takes h2 is a serious threat, and the move g3 will be met with, of course, bishop takes g3. And if hg, then queen h1 is mate, and if f takes g3, then queen takes h2 is checkmate, and white is losing. Back here, if white tries to move h3, then black can simply play queen g5. And there's no good way to defend the g2 pawn. Any kind of g3 will always be met with bishop takes g3, and basically black is checkmating here. So after winning this game, Kramnik did advance to the semifinals, where he ran into Nakamura and actually ended up losing that match, despite having an advantage in one of the games, which he then blundered away. And of course Vishy was eliminated from the tournament after this game. The next highlight I wanted to show you is a game that actually took place in the preliminary rounds when the contestants were in groups of 4. And here's GM Peter Svidler playing white against Vladimir Kramnik. So in their group of 4, it was Kramnik, Svidler, as well as English GM Matthew Sadler and GM Jonathan Rowson. So Kramnik and Swidler were able to qualify from their group, but they actually exchanged wins over one another, which was quite interesting. And in this game, Swidler showed some really nice technique to defeat Kramnik. So in this position, material is about equal, and it's very unclear. White has the 2 bishops, but right now they are quite passive and not very impressive, especially the bishop on g2, which would really prefer to have an open diagonal. Meanwhile, black has a very active queen and an active rook and a lot of pressure against this e2 pawn. And it definitely seems like this position is close to equal, maybe even preferable for black. Of course, white can play rook takes d4 here. And after queen takes e2, they'll trade queens and maybe move like bishop d2. And I think white would definitely have a small edge here just because the 2 bishops can be a nice advantage in the endgame. They can play maybe bishop f1 next, and this a5 pawn is always going to be a target, and white's rooks are quite active here. But that said, I think black definitely has some reasonable, probably more chances to draw than white has to win. In any case, Svidler did not want to go for that. He probably wasn't sure if he could win there, and he instead played the move bishop f1, which is actually very tricky and very, very strong. The point is that white is actually threatening e4 now, with a discovered attack on the queen and the bishop. And black really has to do something about this because Swidler's also defended the e2 pawn and is now threatening to just take the d4 pawn for free. So Kramnik here played d3, and this is actually the best move in the position. And the point is that if white captures this pawn, then after queen d5, white's king is suddenly getting under a lot of pressure here. The f3 pawn is hanging, and it's not so easy to defend this pawn. If something like bishop g2, then black can safely take the pawn on d3. And I think black is pretty close to equalizing here. White can't really take advantage of this pin because black is always going to have queen c5 check to get out, and then they can move the bishop next. For instance, if bishop f1 here, then just queen c5 check, followed by moving the bishop away from the attack. And then, if not bishop g2, if white plays a move like king g2, then black has this move bishop g4, which is quite strong, and white is simply under a lot of pressure here. Bishop e2 doesn't really work due to rook takes e2 check, queen takes e2, and queen takes b7. So those hanging pieces, like the rook on b7, are always something to watch out for. Thanks a lot for tuning in and watching this video on YouTube. If you want to see the rest of this video, then do head on over to the main site, Chess.com. Sign up to be a member, and then you can watch the full feature-length video. Otherwise, I'll see you here next time for more highlights from the London Chess Classic.